Welcome to my Colorwork Series, and also this video will be cross-listed in the playlist with the circular knitting series. In this video, I'm going to talk about yarn dominance and what that means and how you establish yarn dominance. In this Fair Isle piece, and of course Fair Isle knitting is where you're using two colors in a particular row. It's usually no more than two colors. Once you get into three colors or more, that's in tartan knitting, but this is Fair Isle knitting, and what you're doing is you're forming images or patterns, pictures, things like that in your work, and you do that by using or utilizing two different colored yarns, and you're going back and forth, as you can see here on the needle, as you're building your pattern, as you're knitting upwards. Yarn dominance has to do with how you hold your yarns, and you can control yarn dominance based on that. So, for example, and of course this is the two-handed Fair Isle knitting. On two-handed Fair Isle knitting, you're using one yarn in your right hand and knitting that English style, or throwing it is another term that's used for it. In your left hand, you're holding your other yarn, and of course you are continental knitting with that side in which you are catching the yarn. So you've got throwing the yarn and catching the yarn. Yarn dominance has to do with which yarn you're using to catch with. So in this case, because I'm using the royal blue is actually going to be the dominant color. Now, the reason why that's important is because when you're doing your work and you want an image to stand out in an embossed fashion, if you're familiar with embossing paper, for example, it's where you're giving a texture to the paper that's raised up off of the paper towards you, almost like a 3D effect. So you have the same effect when you are doing Fair Isle knitting, depending on which yarn you're using as your dominant yarn, or which yarn you are catching. So in this example here, I'm actually doing an argyle pattern. And so the white squares are going to be the background color, or in this case the yellow, and then the gray squares are going to be the blue color, and that is what I want standing out from the background color. And so again, the way that you do that is you set up your yarns so that you've got your main color that you want to be the dominant in your left hand rather, and then in your right hand is your background color. So when you go and you knit, you'll see kind of how that works. So I'm going to just finish this, and I'm working on this, the argyle pattern right here. And so I did 5 blue, and then 1 yellow, and now I'm going to do 1 blue, and then 3 yellows. So as you can see, I'm knitting English style with the yellow, and I'm throwing the yarn around the needle. And then catching the blue with the left hand using continental. Finishing out, throwing that one, catching that one, and throwing. And so this is what will create this effect, and you can kind of see it right here, how the yellow, because the yellow is what I used as the dominant yarn, and then the red I used as the contrasting yarn, or the background color. So this red was actually in my right hand while I was knitting English style, and then the yellow I had in my my left hand, and I was knitting continental style with that. Now if you switch the yarns, you're still using the same exact pattern, but if you switch the yarns, then the yellow is still going to be here, but instead of it coming out at you, it's going to recede into your work, whereas the red yarn is going to come out, and that's going to make a visually marked difference in your work, because when the red in this case is coming through because it's dominating, it's actually shrinking the yellow. And so the yellow isn't, not only is it in the background, it's not as dominant in the image itself, if you will. So that's how you control yarn dominance. So thank you for watching this video. Please do subscribe to my channel. I've got several videos out there regarding circular knitting, a lot on color work. And please do also provide feedback and comments. I always appreciate those, and I always do respond to those. So again, thank you for watching.